Brock Purdy gets paid. What does it mean for CJ Stroud? Let's attack the angles. I think there's a lot of stuff to get into in regards to this. Plus, the NFL could be making a rule change. It could impact the Texans significantly. Let's go inside the locker room. Happy Friday.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for.
It is the locker room, #1 source for Texans digital content. I am Landry Locker. You can see me, hear me throughout the week right here, 10:30. Also, SNL at 4 o'clock. Big week for SNL. Shout out to everyone that donated when Frank Ross, special teams coach for the Texans, joined earlier today. We raised 4 figures, and it speaks to the community, the largest Texans fan community in the game, and much appreciation to all of you. Hope you're having a good weekend. And shout out to everyone listening, not just in Houston, but all over the place. So I want to hop in and I want to localize the Brock Purdy contract. And Brock Purdy got broke off. Brock Purdy is now one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. He gets a contract that I don't quarterback contracts are always interesting, and we'll get into this, into the details. But it's a 5-year, $265 million deal, which is a ton of bread. $181 million in overall guaranteed money, according to Adam Schefter. And it goes to a quarterback who is pretty polarizing, because I don't think, like, if we just did a schoolyard style draft and we lined up the top quarterbacks in the league and the situation was going to be similar, I don't know when Brock Purdy goes in that draft. He damn sure doesn't go last. He's not Mr. Irrelevant in this draft like he was in the NFL draft a few years ago. But he damn sure doesn't go top 10, I don't think. But he has had a lot of success, and it's hard to argue. Now, what does this have to do with CJ Stroud? CJ Stroud next year is going to be eligible for a contract extension. And when you look at the quarterbacks and who are the highest paid guys, there's a lot of discussion that breaks out, and the most polarizing position becomes most polarizing when you're talking about quarterbacks and you're talking about the amount of money they make and how much of the salary cap they're taking up, because it makes it harder to build a team. There's a reason, and we always like to localize it, but this is relevant because there's a reason that as soon as a rookie quarterback has a good season, whether it's CJ Stroud, whether it was Mahomes, hell, whether it was Deshaun Watson, no, a lot of people don't want to remember that, whether it was Jaden Daniels last year, whether it's Caleb Williams, and he didn't really even have a good season, Drake May, there's always the talk, okay, well, what are you going to do now that you have a quarterback on a rookie contract, and how are you going to build a team around him? And the reason why that's significant is because there's an opportunity where you can swing for the fences and you can build an awesome team around him. And the other reason, there's two, is it becomes more difficult once they're taking that large chunk of the pie. This isn't baseball. You know, this isn't where you can give Shohei Ohtani a record-setting contract and then you can still just keep throwing money around. There's a salary cap, and that's why the NFL maintains competitiveness. And that's why it is a relevant thing. As far as Brock Purdy versus CJ Stroud and what type of player they are, if we look at this, I don't think anyone thinks that Brock Purdy, with all situations equal, is better than CJ Stroud. I find it very hard to believe. Now, you can line up the numbers and you can say that Brock Purdy has been more successful when it comes to wins and losses. And you can say that Brock Purdy, although really not by much, and you can say that the stats are at least similar, but I don't think San Francisco, if you told San Francisco you can have CJ Stroud or you can have Brock Purdy, I think they're taking CJ Stroud. And I don't even think that's a polarizing opinion. I think that's very easy to say. There's been times where Brock Purdy has had a better season than CJ Stroud. And they've been in the league together for 2 years. But if you look at the games, Purdy's played 8 more. The record is 19-13 versus 23-13. So that's kind of similar. The completion percentage, slight edge to Brock Purdy. The pass yards, obviously it's more. He's played more games. Passing yards per attempt, his is higher. Pass yards per game, you give that to CJ. TD to INT, 43, 17, 64, 27. You got to feel pretty good about that. Purdy has the higher rating, and he's actually better with his feet. But it's pretty comparable. And we all know that Brock Purdy is surrounded much better in San Francisco than CJ Stroud is. But nobody thinks Purdy is better than CJ Stroud. All things equal. If CJ Stroud would have been in San Francisco the last couple of years, I think he might have won a Super Bowl his rookie season with the way he played and with how close they were. And I think this market, when it comes to the quarterback market, the question that I have, and this is just how I kind of look at it, is you look at this, and John Machado put this up. I eliminate Dak Prescott because much like when Deshaun Watson got all that guaranteed money, I just look at that as like just foolishness by the Cowboys, and they got themselves in a position where they had no leverage. But where I look at where CJ Stroud's going to be, and yes, the cap is going to go up, is I start at Josh Allen at 55 mil and Joe Burrow at 55 mil. And I go down to Purdy right here at 53. And I ask the question, do you think CJ Stroud, when you pay him, and it's going to be in this range, CJ Stroud's very happy with his Brock Purdy thing. But what is the feeling going to be when you pay CJ Stroud? Is it going to be closer to how Buffalo and Cincy feel about Josh Allen and Joe Burrow? Or is it going to be closer to down here where you have Tua, Jared Goff, and Brock Purdy? That would be the question. Is CJ Stroud closer to Brock Purdy, or is he closer to Josh Allen? I would say he's closer to Brock Purdy, but I would say he's better than Brock Purdy. And I would also say, and I think this is the most important thing, and I always use this reference, the imaginary gun that I always like to refer to when it comes to answering questions, and it's basically just to show the confidence level in the questions. The imaginary gun thing, when I'm looking at paying a quarterback, because in most situations, when you pay a quarterback and you give him his first big contract, technically his second contract in the NFL, but his first contract that doesn't apply under the rookie scale, you're hoping that his best is ahead. You're hoping that his best is ahead of him. And if it's not, then you find yourself in a pretty tough situation. I don't think Jacksonville feels awesome about Trevor Lawrence right now. You would hope that the best is ahead, but I don't think they feel awesome about that. Tua, we've probably seen the best of Tua, if we're being completely honest. It was a couple of years ago. Miami did a good job of putting a squad around him. I don't see Tua. I don't see the arrow pointing up when it comes to Tua. That's just me. Tyreek Hill's getting older. Jalen Waddle's having trouble staying on the field. Mike McDaniel, he seems like one of those guys that could be on a hot seat-ish type of situation. The best football of Tua, some would say he didn't warrant that contract in the first place, but the best football being ahead of Tua, I think a lot of people would have their doubts on. CJ Stroud, if you put the imaginary gun to my head and you said I had to have the right answer, I wouldn't really hesitate. I wouldn't blink. And I would say, yeah, I think CJ Stroud's best football is ahead of him. Now, a lot of that's going to have to do with Nick Caley and what exactly Nick Caley can do. Nick. But I would say yes. Brock Purdy, is the best of Brock Purdy ahead? I mean, I would say I wouldn't bet on that. I mean, are we going to see much better? I mean, there is a reason. I know that Tom Brady went 199, and we hear that every 5 seconds whenever we're talking about Tom Brady. But are we going? Is Brock Purdy that type of guy? I think the thing that has been the most interesting during the time with Brock Purdy, and I don't think this guy's gotten enough credit. Now, he's regarded as one of the best players at his position, but I think there's a Christian McCaffrey factor that gets kind of overlooked when we're talking about Brock Purdy. Because as much as it's a great story that Mr. Irrelevant comes in, he relieves, you go to the Super Bowl, all that. That was the story that we heard the most about. Trading for Christian McCaffrey is what got them in that situation. And they actually went to the conference championship in year 1, and then year 2 when he was starting, that's when they went there. But that's what set it off, was trading for Christian McCaffrey. They were a 500 team before they traded for Christian McCaffrey. And last year we saw Christian McCaffrey banged up, and we didn't really see an awesome Brock Purdy. So you have that factor. CJ Stroud doesn't have the equivalent of that. Now the surroundings are going to have to get better, and the Texans are going to have to maximize the surroundings. That's where the pressure kind of increases once you make this decision for Nick Caserio and company. They're going to have to maximize the surroundings. They've done a poor job while he was on his rookie contract of maximizing the potential around him. They've done a poor job of that. And it becomes a little bit more difficult once CJ gets in that range, but they're going to have to maximize the surroundings. But I mean, if you look at what the future is for Brock Purdy, and I'll bring up this tweet from Grant Cohn. Trent Williams is getting old. They're 4-12 without Trent Williams since 2020. Brock Purdy's had one of the best left tackles in the league. He was another guy who was banged up last year, and you kind of saw that fall down. So Brock Purdy's going to have to do a hell of a lot more. And CJ Stroud's going to have to do a lot more too moving forward, but they're going to have to do a lot more around him as well. It's going to be hard for San Francisco to match the surroundings that they had for Brock Purdy when he came into the league. Hell, that's a core, an overall core that went to a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. So that's going to be very difficult. Maybe there's like a different era. There is like, I mean, if you win it all in the next couple of years, I don't think they're going to regret it. But the feeling that San Francisco has, and I think it ended up being a reasonable price for Brock Purdy, given just the way that quarterback negotiations are, where Trevor Lawrence becomes the highest paid quarterback regardless. Back when he got broke off, Jordan Love, Tua, Jared Goff got broke off. But how do you feel? How are you going to feel about CJ? And there's going to be pressure on the front office when it comes to this as well. But CJ Stroud, make no mistake about it, he's very, very excited with the way that this went down. Very, very excited. And it's interesting company. It's always interesting whenever you start talking about the first era of, or the first few years of a quarterback on a rookie deal. And then after that, and we'll see how Nick Caserio handles that, and we'll see how it goes. But it's a big year for CJ Stroud. I think he gets paid regardless now at this point. And I don't think we'll get into the discount talk in a second. That gets brought up a lot. I think it's just it's tough to compare two GOATs to the rest of the guys. It is a locker room, #1 source for Texans digital content. Check out SNL Monday through Friday, 4 o'clock as well. HD AV Traveler, as always, on the soup. Austin Jack
Swarm
says, evening, Landry and friends. Evening to you, mi amigo. Herman on the soup says it's a hard comparison due to the expectations of CJ versus Brock, and the system was already in place for Brock. Yeah, his surroundings are elite. The surroundings have as much to do with why Brock Purdy is getting paid as anything. Trevor Lawrence got paid despite having bad surroundings his first few years in the league. Tua got paid based on, I'm not sure what they were thinking. Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, there's a reason why those guys are regarded top 4, top 5 quarterbacks. They got paid. Dak Prescott, somewhere in between those guys. He's above the Tuas, and actually had a really good year before he got paid, but they mishandled the cap so much that he just maximized what he got. He basically had Jerry by his old shrivel balls and was able to separate himself there. So I don't know that that's an outlier. The other angle of this, and we've talked about this, is Nick Caserio sucks at negotiating contracts. He's not good. He's very, very, very reckless when it comes to negotiating contracts. It's very rare that he wins. We don't see a lot of Nico Collins type contracts. It's usually paying the best case scenario before the best case scenario push is even coming to shove in that scenario. So you have that. So I don't know what it looks like. I could easily see CJ Stroud getting more than Dak Prescott. You got David Mulugheta, but Nick's not very good at negotiating deals. He doesn't win too many contract negotiations. We'll see. AG 1913 says the Deshaun Watson convo and SNL got me thinking, if CJ wanted to take a team friendly, this is a perfect transition into what I was getting into next. So you're kind of alley-ooping it for me. If CJ wanted to take a team friendly deal, could he get a player option? Example, 5 years, $225 million player option after year 3. If GM doesn't put squad, you opt out for more. They're not going to let him leave though for nothing. So I don't know how creative they will or won't get. I think they're going to be looking for fully guaranteed based on the Mulugheta thing. But the conversation about quarterbacks taking less money, I think it's hard to really compare the two names that are brought up when that happens. And the two names that get brought up are Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. And the one thing that those two guys have more than any other quarterback that's trying to get paid is, first of all, they're making a crap ton of money off the field. Tom Brady always has. He had a wife who I think was making more money than him. She was making 8 figures. He also had the endorsements off the field, the investments, all that type of stuff. And he also had an organization that, say what we want and we can say the reason why, but with him there, that organization functioned at the highest level that we've ever seen and the most impressive level that we've seen in competitive sports. And when you talk about the parity in the NFL, the run that they were able to put together, again, regardless of who, what, when, where, why, as long as he was there, the run they were able to put together, you trust that good decisions are going to be made and taking less money makes sense. Same thing with Patrick Mahomes. He has all these investments. He came into the league with Andy Reid, the Chiefs, Hall of Fame tight end, Tyreek Hill, arguably the best defensive player in the game, and all he knows is AFC Championship games and Super Bowl appearances. So it's not really like that overly financial of a burden for him, and they have the trust of the organization. Does CJ Stroud trust that if he takes less money, and Josh Allen kind of did it a little bit, but does he trust that they're going to put the perfect squad around him and they're going to figure some stuff out and be able to get it done? That's one thing. Is his earning potential the same as those guys? That's another. Now it's easy to look at it and say, oh, what's the difference between 40 and 50 and all that? Well, I mean, if you're gonna use the money on Titus Howard extensions, Jalen Petrie extensions, Stephon Diggs trades, what is he really taking less money for? I mean, as much as CJ's got to prove it this year, the organization's got to prove it too, and they're gonna be functioning under a new. It's a completely different game. It's not even the same game that they've been playing. And I've talked about this with Caserio, but he hasn't been functioning under much pressure early on. I mean, you inherited a disgruntled quarterback. That sucks on the surface, but if there's no pressure to win and ownership is being very patient with you and you're able to wait it out and get the perfect deal and you get a few first round picks with that and you don't have to win, you don't have to spend money. You can sit out 50+ million of dead cap, and then you can have an appealing situation to where you can bring in DeMeco Ryans. That's not as much pressure. And when you get the quarterback on his rookie deal who has one of the best rookie seasons that we've seen, you can be a little bit reckless with money. You can't make when CJ Stroud is getting paid. And maybe it's a completely different mindset and there's a different system and all that, but you can't make the mistakes that Nick Caserio made during that time once CJ Stroud is one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL, which is inevitable regardless of what you think he is or how we feel. It's happening. You can't make mistakes like that. You can't be reckless. So they're going to have to tighten up as well. You're going to have to keep hitting on the draft picks, and you're going to have to improve the surroundings. Because as much as I nitpick Brock Purdy and we all nitpick quarterbacks and we nitpick it, the fact that Brock Purdy is in this situation, it's really kind of a salute to what San Francisco has done building a team and building a system around him. CJ Stroud right now, I know he's better than Tua. I know he's better than Trevor Lawrence. I know he's better than a lot of the guys on this list, but his surroundings haven't been awesome compared to them. So they're going to have to figure this out. When it comes to CJ Stroud. As a matter of fact, you could say he might have had, outside of Trevor Lawrence, the worst surroundings on the list. I mean, I don't know. Josh Allen, it's not like they've done a ton with him with receiver lately, but before that, I mean, they traded for Diggs when he was on his rookie deal. And they did a good job. They got Cole Beasley. Both those guys made All-Pro, I think, in 2020. Cincinnati's done a good job at wide receiver with Burrow. There's been times where the O-line was bad. Trevor Lawrence's first coach was Urban Meyer. Really not much more to say there. Jordan Love, Green Bay's done a good job surrounding him outside of like big-time receivers. Tua, God, they gave him a crap ton of weapons to where this was even a discussion that he's getting paid in this caliber. And then Jared Goff, obviously what he's done in Detroit, and they broke him off. But the surroundings of CJ Stroud are going to have to improve, because as much as we want to have these arguments, and I know there's a passionate part of the fan base that whenever you're talking about CJ Stroud, it's like, well, you know, he doesn't have this and he hasn't had that and he doesn't do that. And Bobby Slowick sucked. And, you know, it doesn't matter once he gets paid. If they're going to improve it this year, then that's great. But if we get in a situation where Nick Caley's not a good offensive coordinator, they continue to evaluate offensive linemen, then you get yourself in a position to where you're fighting to win divisions, your ceiling is a lot lower, and it really doesn't matter. Like, it shouldn't make you feel any better. It should actually frustrate you. But I like to put this quarterback in that situation. Like if CJ Stroud is in San Francisco 2 years ago, I mean, my God, it's crazy to imagine what he could do, but he's not. And now the Texans are going to have to figure that out. And that's the process that comes up with the Brock Purdy thing. It's very, very easy to connect this because it's going to be inevitable once CJ Stroud gets paid. And it's just, and the feelings really don't matter. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? I mean, it does, because that's kind of what we do. And that's kind of how we talk. Like, do you feel like CJ Stroud's closer to Brock Purdy, or do you feel like he's closer to Joe Burrow? It does matter, but they're going to have to do a better job than what they've done. It hasn't been great. Like, look how we're talking about CJ Stroud heading into year 3. Like, we're wondering, what does the offensive coordinator look like? What will this offensive line look like? Are these young receivers going to be good? You feel good about Nico Collins. You feel great about the defense, and the defense is going to leave a margin for error. But they're going to have to figure it out, because the investment's happening no matter what. You're making the purchase. And CJ Stroud, whether he has a year like he just had, or whether he has a year like closer to his rookie season, he's going to get broke off like that. And I don't know what the negotiations look like. I just know that I don't even know if it matters, because Nick Caserio is a pushover when it comes to contract negotiations. He's awful. He's bad. He's bad. He's the Nico is the only example, but other than that, he's not good at contract negotiations. He's not. Doesn't go too well for him. And maybe he's going to have to tighten that up. But I mean, if I'm David Mulugheta, I'm foaming out the mouth. David Mulugheta just got $5 million more for Derek Stingley, who's best corner in the game. But my God, like Sauce Gardner hadn't even gotten paid yet. And you're going $5 million? Shorter term, I guess, would be the argument. But that's not like a really great negotiation. You had a good contract with Danielle Hunter, and you could have let this play out and then franchise tagged him. But instead, you franchise tagged him without seeing him play well enough to value the franchise tag. I'm not trying to make this a Caserio discussion. I'm just saying CJ Stroud and Mulugheta, they were already feeling themselves when it comes to these negotiations. You can point to Purdy now, and you also know that the guy that you're negotiating with, you've gotten the best of in the last couple of months. So it's a big year. But if I'm CJ Stroud, I'm throwing a party. I'm happy as hell about that. Because that's the starting point right there, my friend. Like we can sit here and we can say whatever, but let's go players POV now. I mean, if I'm CJ Stroud, like this is lovely. Because I'm looking at this list and I'm saying, okay, and he doesn't even have to do it. It's David Mulugheta. I'm looking at this list and I'm saying, whoa, Trevor Lawrence? Okay, we can start there. We've seen these guys head to head. Trevor Lawrence? Yikes. My goodness. I'm in Tua? All right, Purdy? All right, that's where we're starting. We're starting right there at 55, 53. And then we can work our way up. Lamar Jackson, again, he's in Baltimore. Baltimore's played hardball with Lamar Jackson, though. They don't have Nick Caserio. Baltimore actually feels comfortable enough to where they can play hardball with an MVP quarterback. And then he can come back. Everything's cool. He wins another MVP and goes about his business. He's the same caliber player. You can hike your leg on Lamar Jackson. Y'all know I'm a Lamar Jackson fan. But Baltimore actually has the ability to negotiate and play hardball with their guys. Nick Caserio doesn't have that. He's a pushover. I know I know that it's probably, I don't know, do parents still hand their kids cash? But back in my day, millennial days, you know, you go ask, hey, can I have $5 to go to the movie theater? Something like that. Mall. Sarah's giving out 50s, hundreds. Not because he's rich, just because. It's easy negotiation. Oh, can I have 100 more? Sure. Here you go. Have a good time. But yeah, that's where you're starting. You're looking at Tua and you're looking at Lawrence, and those are the starting points. Like it's not, the quarterback position is crazy. CJ Stroud he's foaming out the mouth on this. I don't know whether it's a short contract. I don't know whether it's a long contract. It's gonna be fully guaranteed. David Mulugheta rolls like that. It's gonna be fully guaranteed. Damn near close. And that's regardless of what happens at OC. That's regardless of what the surroundings are. But the most important thing, like in this whole discussion, I think it's the quarterback discussion is always interesting. The most important thing in this discussion is that the organization shows that they can put a good team around CJ Stroud. Because there's reason to believe that when it comes to the good players on that list that we keep bringing up, that the Texans haven't done as good of a job as San Francisco. Now, they were a little bit behind in the process. Detroit, even Tua, I know that they've kind of gotten banged up. They did a good job of giving him weapons. Love. And then I guess Josh Allen, too. They did a good job on his rookie deal for sure, making that Diggs trade. So they got to figure it out. And we'll see where it goes. But I'm going to ask you all the question from a performance standpoint. Is CJ closer to Allen and Burrow, or is he closer to Goff and Purdy? And I look at Allen and Burrow as two elite quarterbacks, top four. top 5 QBs in the league that can elevate their squad whenever surroundings aren't perfect. Burrow can't play defense, but with a bad offensive line, he can lead them to the Super Bowl and he can get the job done. Josh Allen, you can say he doesn't have receivers. He wins the MVP without the receivers. Is CJ Stroud closer to that, or is he closer to Goff, Purdy, where the organizational surroundings and the roster around him in the system, we don't know what Goff's going to look like without Ben Johnson. Kyle Shanahan obviously isn't going anywhere when it comes to Brock Purdy. Is CJ Stroud closer to that? Just focusing on performance, which again, I don't think Nick Caserio is going to use this as like some sort of negotiation tactic, because if he says that, then it's like, well, look at the offensive line you've built, sir. You just fired his offensive coordinator after 2 years. So, I mean, I don't even know what the negotiations sound like. Hopefully it's just a given and you pay CJ Stroud. But that's just what it is there. I would say he's closer to Goff and Purdy at this point, because I don't think he's Allen and Burrow. But it's hard to say that because I don't think he has their surroundings. But as far as the elevation, I do think he's better. Like, he's better than those guys. I think if you put CJ in Detroit or you put him in San Francisco, he's better. But I think he's closer to that than he is Allen and Burrow. Although we've seen signs of CJ being able to flip the switch and figure it out. They've got to make it a little bit comfortable for him. They've got to get somewhere in between that, because they're nowhere near providing the surroundings that Goff and Purdy have at all. Pawn Shop asks, who do you think is going to get paid first, Will or CJ? Oh, man, I would say probably CJ, but Will's not going to be far behind. They love him. He's kind of the face of their whole thing. Now, they also have the Hunter extension after. The rookie options will be picked up, but I would say it's around the same time. But I would probably say CJ because of the agent he has and the position he plays. So that would be my guess on that whole thing. So we'll see how it goes. It'll be fun. Fun weekend ahead. What do we got? We got one NBA Game 7, a little bit of Nuggets versus Thunder. Knicks advanced today. That was a fun watch. Appreciate everyone for coming through. These streams are a little bit shorter during the quote downtime. But I got some traveling to do tomorrow, so I'm going to handle that business, and we'll figure that out. But first, before we get out of here, should the NFL change the playoff seeding? There's talk that the NFL could change playoff seeding to where if you win 9 or 10 games in a division and you're hosting a team that won 11 or 12, then you would have to go to their place instead of them coming to your place. Kind of been something that the Texans have been able to take advantage of many times. Last year as well, would they have had to go to Los Angeles against the Chargers? How would that change things? Do you think this should be a change? I would say yes, but I get the argument and I get the importance and how much NFL teams kind of value divisions. But I think there is kind of a give or take. And I do think that the extreme worst, where you have 7 and 9 division winners hosting playoff games against 12-win teams, like we saw with Seattle with the Beastquake run, I think that should be eliminated. And it might come at the sake of the Texans, although the Texans are saying they want to get rid of, losing to bad teams anyways. You still control this. I think it would be cool. They're also talking about reseeding after round 1. In other words, after the initial seeding, then if there's an upset, then that team would play the higher seed. For example, like let's say Kansas City has a bye and Buffalo's the 2 seed, and let's say Buffalo loses. In the current format, it's kind of a break for the 3 seed. But in this format, it would mean that the team that upsets Buffalo now has to play the Chiefs. I'm in favor of it. I think it's cool. I do understand the counter. I do understand the divisions. I don't think it minimizes divisions because you still win your division and get into the playoffs regardless. And this isn't something that happens all the time. It's just ever so often. Like when you have a really strong division and you have a team that wins like 13 games and then the team behind them wins 11 or 12 and they have to go on the road against a team that won one of the worst divisions, it's kind of effed up. It's kind of effed up. But I get both sides of it. I would, if I were voting, I would vote yes to change it. But I'm sure the counters will be pretty significant. We kind of saw them in SNL today. I would be okay with it. And I know it wouldn't benefit the Texans, but I would be straight with it. We'll see how it goes. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. Be sure to like the damn video and like SNL and all of that. And always remember, enjoy your weekend. And when it comes to this Texan stuff, whether you think CJ should be paid more or less than Brock Purdy, and I think most of us say more. When it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Appreciate y'all for rolling through.
We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up, we number one. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room.